was rabies. Now we know that rabies is given to the host organism by animals like dog, monkey, cat or rabbit by their bite actually. So since this is directly from the source to the host, this type of disease is contagious disease, and therefore the mode of action will be like the disease is caused by the bite of dog, monkey, cat or rabbit. Now we will study about the symptoms of rabies. So in the symptoms of rabies are severe headache. The first symptom is severe headache. The second symptom is the fever. As I told you, fever is the indicator that there is something abnormal happening in your body. So this indicator finally leads to onset of the throat muscles becoming rigid and following by problem in swallowing of the food. And the fifth one would be the fear of water, that is a hydrophobia. Now, when the rabies virus injects into the body and its incubation period starts, gradually and slowly all these symptoms are developed. And once these symptoms are confirmed, it is confirmed that the individual is infected by rabies. So one factor over here is the fear of water, that is hydrophobia. A person infected with rabies would always have this phobia of water. The next one is the patient is delirious, and the last symptom is that the limbs become flaccid and they go spasm. They go in the spasmic state. So rabies is a very deadly and very lethal disease actually, and it is very much suggested and advised that precaution and care should be taken when you're taking care of your pet and when you're breeding pets at home, because they are the direct source from which we the humans can actually get this disease. So there is this, I'll just tell you one short story to just tell you the impact of this whole disease. So what happened once, there was a little boy. He used to play around with a street dog. So that street dog was neither vaccinated, and obviously when it was not vaccinated, so it had rabies inside it, the virus for that, because all dogs and all animals or monkeys have this particular virus inside them. So after he used to play with him, and he used to stay out with him, feed him, stick around with him, hug him, cuddle him, and finally one day what happened is he had got wounded. So on his wound came the saliva of the dog, because the dog was licking his hand that was wounded, and the saliva was containing virus inside it. That virus found a way to get into his body through his wound, and followingly these symptoms that was he has to have like the temperature of fever he had was way too more. He had severe headaches, he had spasms, he had fear of water, he had fear of everything, and these turned out to be really deadly. So it was not actually detected in his case. It was not detected in the case of the boy that the boy could have the disease of rabies, but after a while or occurrence, when the incubation period of the virus had gone really strong, it was then detected that these symptoms are similar to rabies, but it was way too late for the boy. So this story concludes us that we are supposed to take care of the pets. We are supposed to give them vaccinations. So one preventive measure and treatment for rabies would be that the pets, if you are breeding any pets, it is your responsibility to get your pets vaccinated with the antivirus, that is the anti-rabies vaccination over here, the anti-rabies vaccination. Now, once your dog is vaccinated with this, the dog is immune to the whole rabies virus for a span of 1 year. And this is a very important procedure that needs to be continued in the cycles to avoid hazard to yourself as well as to the dog. The other preventive measure is that supposedly, just imagine not even your pet dog, but there's a street dog or street cat or any other animal like rabbit or monkey that has just scratched you or bitten you, and you don't know whether the pet or that dog is vaccinated or that animal is vaccinated or does it have rabies or no. So always prevention is actually better than cure. What you should do at that time is you should go and visit a doctor, and you should immediately get the anti-rabies vaccination for yourself, and you should have the complete course. There's a course for having this vaccination. So say the course is now of 5 vaccination shots of Rabies. Rabies is the name of the vaccine that the doctor will suggest you. So this needs to be completed in the whole course. If you don't complete the course, supposedly due to some reasons you chose to just take 3 shots of rabies vaccination, it would not make any difference. This inoculation number will not make any difference in treating and curing the rabies. So it is always suggested to have complete courses of everything that you go for. The next one is to clean. The next this preventive measure is actually very basic and very obvious. So whenever you are hurt with something, in order to prevent the entry of virus or the bacteria into your body through that wound, it is always suggested that you clean this wound with a lot of soap and water just to sterilize it for the while. So this is an immediate process that should be practiced. And the next is that you should visit the doctor and take anti-rabies vaccination, and you should complete it. Complete the course of it. To how much ever the doctor suggests you, those many vaccination shots, and that much of course you're supposed to complete, because if the course is left incomplete, it would not help in curing this disease actually. So the next and the last one is very obvious. If you are having any pets in a house, you're supposed to vaccinate them with antiviral, anti-rabies vaccination, antivirus. And let's again go through the whole of this. The mode of infection is the disease is caused in the host organism by the bite of dogs, monkey, cats, or even rabbits. The symptoms are, there are severe headaches, there is fever, there is throat muscles that they go rigid, and because of this throat muscles they going rigid, there is always a problem in swallowing. So there is this one problem of swallowing. The next is that there is phobia of water, that is there is fear of water, and that fear is known as hydrophobia. The next one is that patient is delirious and it can be fatal. Rabies is a disease that can go fatal and that can cause death in certain conditions if not treated on time. Then the next one and the last symptom, that is that limbs become flaccid and they go spasmic. Spasmic means there is cramps, there are cramps in your muscles and in your limbs. So the preventive measures I explained to you. Now let's move on to the next disease. Let's start with tuberculosis. Now tuberculosis is considered to be the second most virulent and infectious disease in India. It is assumed that it is actually estimated that every 3 minutes there are 2 tuberculosis patients who die. So it is very important to actually implement plans, implement campaigns for creating an awareness about this and to treat it. So we'll just understand a little bit more about tuberculosis, about its mode of infection. So the mode of infection is the germs, they enter the air through the spittle of the infected patient and disease spreads through the air. So this is a communicable disease because it is spreading through a medium indirectly. And the spittle, the word spittle over here, that means spit actually of the patient. So what happens in the mode of infection is when the person is coughing or sneezing or trying to talk, the virus, the germs that are present inside it, the bacteria that is responsible for this, is getting ejected out into the environment and it gets a medium through air to enter into a healthy host or a susceptible host in the close vicinity actually. So that's the mode of infection that we learned, and it spreads through air. It is a communicable disease. The next is the symptoms. The first symptom is coughing. Now usually that normal span of coughing is not considered, but a prolonged period of coughing, like more than a month or two of coughing, that a person is having aggravated coughing in the night or at a certain time of the day, that is a main symptom that could indicate that a person is infected with tuberculosis. The next one is low grades of fever. Fever is actually an indicator for all type of diseases and infections, because I told you that's an indicator to just show the change in your body, to change the whole thing. So the third one is blood in spittle. Now this happens as this disease, as the stages proceed by, and hence when there comes a stage that increases, that is severing and is aggravating, at that stage you may see blood in the spittle. The fourth one is loss of weight. Loss of weight is one symptom for this. The fifth one is pain in the chest, and the sixth symptom is difficulty in breathing. Of course, tuberculosis is associated with your lungs, is associated with the respiratory tract, so there will be difficulty in breathing. And the human body is designed in a very unique way actually, because a little bit of changes in the part of the body or the organs that is there, that is present in the body, these changes, they just give you an indication that there is something wrong with your body and you need to start curing it. So the body itself is reactive and it shows you the changes that are happening. Usually when you are at a very rested and rejuvenated state and a happy, healthy state, all these differences and all these things are not seen, but symptoms are important to be observed for understanding the type of infection. So the preventive measures and the treatments for tuberculosis is taking the BCG vaccine. Now there's an organization named as DOTS, that is DOTS. Now this organization is taking an initiative for creating awareness and vaccinating people who are infected with tuberculosis and have the symptoms shown in them. So they are the organization that takes an initiative to spread and aware about this disease. So the next one is covering the mouth and nose with a handkerchief or a tissue while coughing, coughing or sneezing actually. So when you are coughing and when you're sneezing, what happens is through the spit there are these droplets. So these droplets, they are released into the air, and these are actually very small and tiny in size and cannot be seen, but these are responsible for spreading in the air and then causing this communicable disease. So it is well suggested, it is always told to you also, though you have any disease or no, you need to cover your mouth or by talking, while coughing or while sneezing actually, to reduce the removal or the output of these tiny droplets into the air. So the last one is nothing but the medical treatment. So we'll again have a thorough about this, about the TB, that is tuberculosis disease. We learned about the mode of infection. In that we learned that the germs, they enter the air through the spittle of the patient and the disease spreads through the air. So it is a communicable disease. I'll just write that down. Now the symptoms. We learned about the symptoms that the first symptom could be coughing. But coughing, in this, there's prolonged period of coughing for more than a span of 1 month or 2 months. The next symptom is low grade of fever. So the third one would be the blood in spittle, where this happens in the most severe and aggravated cases. The fourth is loss of weight. Fifth would be a tuberculosis patient would have pain in the chest constantly. The sixth symptom for tuberculosis is going to be difficulty in breathing. Then we learned about the preventive measures. They are taking vaccination, that is the BCG vaccination, and covering the mouth and the nose while coughing and sneezing. So that is what we are taught always. The last is the medical treatment to be taken and the proper course of this medical treatment to be taken in order to avoid and in order to prevent and cure this disease. So always remember, prevention is better than cure, and you need to be very precautious before performing activities like eating food or doing any other activity in which your body is intaking that material into the body.
Choose the right kindergarten, a right bag, and matching bottle to go with. The right school, the right friends. Choose the right subjects and score well. Be an expert in all. The right teacher, and make sure that they like you. Choose the right timing, the right bus, and take a cab if getting late. The right train, and don't stand near the gates. Mind the pockets. Better get into ladies' compartment. Make sure your mustache hasn't started coming. Choose the right study time and forget games, IPL, IHL, rock and metal, guitar, axe. The right group and be a model to your brother. Seriously. Choose the right syllabus, the right test paper. Keep guessing questions for exams. Choose the right branch, the right college, the right stream. Choose the right career. Lucky to have a father's business to take care of and a father to allow that. The right counselor, the right form, and make sure the project is submitted on time. Choose the right website and rely on your friends for more information. Oblivious of the sites they have been to, there is no end to your woes. Getting better with every step you climb up the ladder. The summer vacation shorter, the bucket list bigger. The night darker, the books heavier. The only light you have is your friends ahead of you. Probably he is right. Ever thought how he got the direction? No more spending your energy and money on coaching classes. No more missing classes for rain, rally, and nonsense. Get your interest back in subjects through our creative ways of teaching. Doubts, concepts, applications, all explained through one vibrant animation. Subjects covered by multiple teachers with repeat telecasts. Special programs only for basic foundation and paper analysis. Personality development, career counseling, admissions, hobbies, all covered. A new approach to study with long-term perspective. So sit back comfortably in your homes and watch Study Spectrum TV channel.
So the next disease is typhoid. Now typhoid we know is a waterborne disease because it is the infection is contracted to the healthy host by the source of water. So the mode of infection is through contaminated food and water, and also through the house flies. So this is not only a waterborne disease but also a foodborne disease because I'll give you a scenario actually. So there's this one person who is defecating near the side of the riverbanks, and while he's defecating, so simultaneously there will be a lot of activities happening around him. So what happens is the defecated feces, they enter the water. Now a part of it might be left behind on the ground while a part of it might be in water, and that water is infected in the first place. Now secondly, what happens is, imagine a housefly or any other fly coming and sitting and feeding off his feces or debris. because houseflies have a source of nutrition through the debris too. So they can also act as a carrier of these germs from that site to the site where the food is stored. Now we know that there are houseflies, there are flies that are sitting on the street food and the market food, that like the oily vada paos or samosa pav. You can see that there are flies who are sitting on it, but there might be a possibility that this fly who was sitting on the defecated matter of the infected person carries these germs to the other side, that is the street food, the corner of the street food. And in this way, there is a possibility that the germs have entered the food, and if a healthy host consumes that food, there are chances that the person might contract typhoid disease, and also resistance or the immunity is an important matter. That also plays an important role in deciding whether a person will have the disease or will not have the disease. So the other one that I told you in the same example was through the means of water. Now how water? That water is used for many purposes, like for in rural areas. So imagine this whole situation that I gave you right now was in rural areas. In rural areas, there's a person who's defecating by the river banks. The defecated feces, they enter the water and they infect the water. So when this water is consumed by the people in the village, or it is used for washing clothes, it is used for any other activity or for cooking food. So what happens is this bacteria that causes the disease has entered the source, the healthy host, through the water, or depending on the usage of water. And again, there's a possibility that there will be this infection that will be occurring in a healthy host. So the mode of infection, in short, is the infection is transmitted through waterborne diseases or foodborne diseases, and in short, it is a communicable disease based on the table that I explained you right in the start. Communicable disease, how communicable disease? Because it is the microorganisms are entering the host through a medium, and that means it is entering indirectly in the host body. So here, food and water are the two main reasons for mode of infection. Now let's go on to understand about the symptoms. The first symptom is that there will be fever, but in this case, the fever will be for a very definite period, for a period that will last for a definite span of time. Then there will be rose-colored rashes on the chest. So you may do one thing, you may just Google that the rashes that come on the chest by the typhoid infections. So you will see those rashes that they will be very patchy and they will be rosy in color, not red in color. So you can easily distinguish in the two types of the rashes. The next one is diarrhea. Diarrhea is excessive loss of water from the body. So yes, that is also one important factor. The last one is headaches. So these were the symptoms that just explained about the typhoid in short. So followingly, we will also understand about the preventive measures and the treatments. So the first one is taking typhoid vaccinations. Now for every infection that is created, that's made by these pathogenic microorganisms, there is a cure to it, and that's a vaccine. So taking normal courses and routine courses of vaccinations is very important. The next is drink boiled water. So during rainy seasons, there is a very high increased number of chance that you might be affected with typhoid as such. So the only option that is there, that in rural areas people can use water by boiling them, because boiling kills the microorganism in the water. At a certain temperature, it comes when the microorganism cannot bear the heat inside the water that are present, and this may lead to the death of the microorganism in the medium and hence make it portable for our use. So nowadays we also have many RO and UV water cards, so that is also one helpful medium through which we get sterilized and portable water. The next one is not eating the food that is uncovered, especially from the outside. Over here. not eating the food that is uncovered, especially from outside, because I just now explained to you about the case of house flies. I just gave you one scenario. There might be many other possibilities through which these germs are transferred to the street food or the food that is not covered for a long time. So it is always better to have a preventive measure rather than curing it. I told it to you again. So eating only clean and fresh food and eating the food most times that is made at home are the other options for preventing the typhoid disease. The last one is maintaining public hygiene. Now I told you that about it being a foodborne and a waterborne disease. So maintaining public hygiene is a very important part of it, because there are symptoms that the shopkeeper who is making that street side food might have this infection, and if he's unhygienic and if he's using unhygienic sources of water and food, there are chances you may definitely get the disease. So it is always better to maintain public hygiene. Now we'll repeat this whole set again just for you to get thorough with this. So we learned about typhoid. What we learned about typhoid was about its mode of infection. The mode of infection is through contaminated food and water and through houseflies. So we can also name this to be a communicable disease. Or rather, a foodborne and a waterborne disease, to be precise about things. Then we learned about its symptoms. We learned that the first symptom was fever that lasts for a definite period of time. Then the second one we learned was about the rose-colored rashes that appear on the chest. The rose-colored rashes that appear on the chest. The third one we learned was about diarrhea, and the fourth one we learned was about headaches. Then we went on to learn about the preventive measures and treatments. The first one we learned, taking a typhoid vaccination is always easy and preventive. The second one we learned was drinking boiled water. Boiled water because boiled water helps kill the germs inside the water and make it potable for our use. The third one we learned was not eating uncovered food, especially from outside, because you never know that through which mode the food might be infected. So we should try to avoid eating. I'm not asking you to completely stop it, but you should avoid, and this should be really seasonal. The next one is eating only clean and fresh food that is cooked at home. This is the best preference to follow. The last one is maintaining public hygiene, because it plays a very important part in the communicable diseases like typhoid, like influenza and other diseases.